Welcome to the Life in Red podcast. This is a way of life that emphasizes positive sexuality, self-love, and confidence. On this journey, red is now your new color. Be courageous. Be passionate. Be sexy. And never stop living your best red life. So now I have one question for you. Are you ready to live your life in red? To join us on this journey, like and subscribe below. Welcome to the Life in Red podcast. This is Brittany, your host, and today I'm so excited because we are going to be discussing women and sexuality and how the social constructs and patriarchy and all these different influences have kept us as women from truly exploring our authentic sexual selves. And today I have the beautiful Jennifer Estrela here, and she is a registered psychotherapist and has adopted a holistic approach to therapy. She believes that all elements of an individual's life come together to play a role in human functioning. Amongst so many things, you help so many people. So I truly appreciate you being here today, Jennifer.
I'm so happy to be here with you.
Great. So what got you into your line of work of helping people?
Well, it's been a long journey. I can tell you that. So I started off my journey when I was young. I think I was about 17. And I did a stint of co-op working with street youth in Toronto. So in the streets of downtown Toronto. From there, it just became a passion of mine to help people. I went on to work in group homes with severely sexually abused children, and then I worked with youth corrections. I was a youth corrections officer for a while. From there, I went into children's aid. So I was a child protective service worker. I did frontline investigating of abuse and neglect. And then I became a mom. After I became a mom, I did stop that kind of work because it was a bit much. And then I got my master's and I started my own practice. So I've been in my own practice for 11 years now. And I work with a variety of people, individuals, families, couples, dealing with anything from depression to sexual trauma to sexual struggles within the relationship, to anxiety, ADHD, eating disorders, you name it. So that's kind of a brief synopsis of my journey to where I am today. But I've worked with a number of different people in different situations and kind of seen a lot. I've heard a lot over the years.
Well, and that's why you were one of the only guests I've had on that was from a friend of mine referred. She referred you and was like, you got to talk to Jennifer. She will talk about sex and she knows what she's talking about. And obviously I was looking over your psychology today, your credentials and everything and I didn't know about your past. And even you've worked with women who were in the adult industry.
Oh, I have, for sure. That started when I worked with the street youth because, unfortunately many of them were. But even in private practice, I've worked with women who are in the adult industry by choice because they want to be, because it fits them, because it's, it's serving them, and helping them remove that shame, remove that stigma, and giving themselves permission to do what fits for them, regardless of what society wants to judge them as.
And there's the segue. I find that interesting, just to dive into that I had an episode recently on myths around certain sexual things. And one of them was the myth that people choose to be in the adult industry because they have mass amounts of trauma only because of that, not because they are making a healthy choice for themselves or they actually want to do it. And I loved when I first talked to you because you were like, no, they want to do this.
Yeah, and for some women, it's very empowering, right? I've got this asset that's mine. It's my body, and I choose to use it to make a living. I choose to actually exploit men and their desire for me to make a really good living. And if they're doing it in a healthy way and they're being safe about it and it's ultimately their choice, who is anyone else to judge them and tell them they're wrong? This is their body. This is their asset. This is their choice. No one has to engage in it. No one has to stop what they're doing and join them. But no one has to judge them either because it's what fits them and suits them.
Exactly. It's like I talked with a burlesque dancer. She was former evangelical gone burlesque, and essentially it's acting mixed with, well, I would say it's the same thing with erotic dancing and stripping down. And it's like that's okay to society though, because you're in Las Vegas and you're getting the show. But just because she's getting off and all these other things, it's still a show. It's a show.
And I work with a lot of young men who use escorts. Okay, so let's put it from that perspective. Now you have young men who have low self-esteem, who are introverted, who are lonely, who are isolated, and they choose to use an escort. This escort, this woman, walks into this young man's life and she makes him feel empowered. She makes him feel handsome and wanted and desired and heard and seen. What is she doing wrong?
Nothing. She's nothing. And at least she's getting paid to do that instead of having to do it for free.
Exactly. Actually helping somebody, but doing it differently. I help people using my words, using my mind, using my knowledge, using my education. She's helping them using her body. She's helping them using her words in a different way. And I'm not saying it's equal, but I am saying that, no one's going to judge me for doing what I'm doing because I'm doing what I do that fits me, that honors me. It's my choice. Why can't we let her do it too?
Right. Let her, and we get to her. And we are talking about, we were talking earlier, how should we open this up? Because there are the pronouns and all the sensitivities around these. But today we are talking about the female body.
Correct.
We are representing the female today, not the transgender. We love you. We love you, transgender females and males. We're not representing the males. We are talking about female bodies, females, and the stigma from culture on who you're supposed to be sexually because of that. So I just want to make that clear for that PT sensitivity. PC, not PT. I'm going military here. So let's jump into it. And thank you for all that. What do you notice first off in your chair and your therapy that women are coming in and experiencing shame around sex? Do you have a thing that you hear the most of?
There's actually quite a bit of shame still, as much as, we're living in a very sexually progressive world. And I think that, younger generations may see it differently and may experience it differently. But I would say that there's still a lot of shame around sexuality with women, and whether it's, I'm seeing a lot of the idea of women in, let's say their 40s, even some late 30s, 40s. Maybe they've entered a relationship or they're unhappy in their relationship and they want to explore their own sexuality. So what I'm hearing is until this point in their lives, their sexuality has been governed and determined and existing by a man, by their male partner. Yeah. In these situations, I'm talking about heterosexual, cisgendered women. Right. Just to put that out there. So these women are experiencing sex through the pleasure eye of her male partner. And in her late 30s and 40s, coming into my office saying, I've never had an orgasm and I don't know how to masturbate and I can't touch myself. That's not right. You don't do that. And not having the autonomy and the ownership of her own sexuality. So there's a lot of shame around owning your sexuality. And I can say, growing up, I'm a Portuguese Catholic woman. And growing up in my culture, it was very much bred within us, right? You save yourself till marriage and only your husband gets to touch you. And your sexuality was something that you held on to, but ultimately belonged to somebody else. And once that ring was put on your finger, you gave him your sexuality, and now it was his.
You're a slave. All respect to the word, but that's essentially you're giving all your power away.
You're completely relinquishing control and autonomy to this other person.
Right.
A very big concept that never sat well with me as an individual, as a
Right.
woman. But you see it around you and you grow up with that thought in your head. And as you grow up with that thought in your head, I can't imagine how shame doesn't become part of it. I can't imagine how guilt doesn't become part of it, right? The whole idea of like being in your 20s and being sexually exploratory, sorry, and then feeling guilty about it. What have you actually done wrong? As long as there's consenting adults, you're of age, you know what you're doing it safely, go out and enjoy it, go out and explore it. Rather than, no, now you're bad and you're wasted and you're used and no one's going to want you.
Yes. And that's what I've been talking to ASEPT, I guess, certified sex therapists lately. And the new rule I'm hearing, if there's going to be a rule, it's so cool because it's not about sex addiction anymore. And this rolls into what you're saying. It's about, is this hurting me? Is this hurting those around me? And if not, all is well. Like that's it. There's your boundary. What do you want?
And I think more effort needs to be put into this realm of consent, right? This wheel of consent.
Right.
Consent. As long as we're consenting and we both understand and share the definition of consent, then who are we actually hurting?
Right. We're hurting someone's. See, that's the thing is like you have beliefs, these little soldiers guarding one's heart, or if you will. And you have two human beings, possibly more, that have all these beliefs. So it's like we come with our personal set of beliefs, especially at these young ages, being in the late 30s and 40s, being governed by the boomer age. No offense to boomers, but it's an era of like, oh my God, I have these sets of beliefs, you have these sets of beliefs, but I kind of want to do this. And it's like, no, I can't do that because that's not good. That's not bad. And these little soldiers start poking you, like the shame soldiers, like, you can't do this. And it's really sad. And I know we are very blessed, I would say, because we are coming into a time now where things, thanks to the Zoomers being, in my opinion, so adamant about being individuals, we are now coming into time where the millennials and the Gen Xers are like, okay, maybe it's safe. Maybe it's safe for us to explore here because it's in media, it's in these different areas, but we're still getting backlash. We're still getting those different misconceptions about if a woman is hypersexual, if you will, she's a slut.
Correct.
These different things, but it's okay. And we are not bashing men on this show today. We are big supporters of men, but it's a little bit more acceptable for the male counterparts to do so.
And it's been that way throughout history.
Right.
You go as far back as you want to go. Men have always had multiple sexual partners, and the virtue of virginity wasn't imposed on men the way it was on women. And that's been throughout all of history. And again, I am not ever bashing men. I'm a humanist. I'm egalitarian. I think that, we never have to bash somebody to make another person feel good about themselves or righteous or anything like that. But a fact is a fact. And that's really what it comes down to. And even in today's world, there's still that conception of, yes, you're right, women who are hypersexual are freaks of nature or sluts or whatever the case may be. But a lot of that judgment comes from women upon women.
Yeah.
That is a concept that we as women need to do better about that. We can't just because the woman is getting attention or just because she's expressing herself sexually, why should I be judging her and telling her she's a slut? Our appetite, our sexual desire, our sexual drive, as you will, is such a spectrum from woman to woman. And just because one woman has a low end spectrum and one has a high, doesn't mean one's superior and one's inferior. It just means we have different appetites and tastes.
Yeah, and these fluctuate. They're fluid. They change based on biology. They change based on belief systems falling. Like they change based on trauma being healed. you have repression you didn't even know you had. So like, here's a story. I come from charismatic Pentecostal backgrounds, as I've told you guys many times. And what happened for me is when I got out of the house and I was free, I had, I call it the preacher's daughter syndrome. I'm free. I get to Athens, Georgia, which is a party town. And I let loose. I let loose. I'm what society would call promiscuous. I was. I had partners all the time. And what I realized was, did it end up fulfilling me the way I ended up learning a lot, because it was sexual repression that I wanted deeper. I found myself to be a sapiosexual more so. But what was great is there were certain experiences, they were all new and exciting. So I get to work the next day, get around my girls at the country club. And I was a cart girl, and I'd be like, oh my God. And I'm a storyteller. I was like, I just got laid last night. And I'm a little bit, objectifying a little bit, sure. And I'm like, man, he had the D, da, 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 da. And they were looking at me like I had the scarlet letter. They were like, one actually said, like, do you have to talk about that? It's kind of gross. And this was kind of a foreshadow of why I'm here today. Because for me, it was so fun to talk about, like the leading up to it, how you met, how you reeled him in. I was kind of a bad girl. And, but anyways, but that's an instance of the female upon female shame.
And even talking about it. So sex is one of those things that I feel fundamentally is so natural. It is such a natural part of being a human. We don't exist without it. Let's be honest.
You don't.
You don't. It's necessary. It's needed. It's fun. It's exciting. It's adventurous. It's loving. There are so many different emotions that come with the act of sex, depending on so many different variables. But nobody wants to talk about it. And it's taboo. And how dare you say that? And I can't believe you say that out loud. And I went to a dinner party one night. Well, out for dinner with a bunch of girls. And I'm new to Calgary. I moved to Calgary 2 years ago, so I don't have my girls here. So we went out for dinner, and I knew one girl. I knew one woman there. The rest were her friends. We were celebrating her. And these women are all, very proper, talking about, our kids and our families and this and that and the other. And then somehow, I can't remember how, but we got onto the conversation of micropenises. And
micro penises.
A bunch of 40-year-old women sitting around the table. And then later a conversation went from micro penises to anal sex, and these things happen. And
of course, where else would it have gone?
It started off as such a bit of a taboo conversation. Like, you could see the cheeks turning red and the eyes looking down. And I'm there talking about it very matter-of-factly, like, oh, no, this happens, and, these are the things, and, you might want to try this if you're interested in trying that. And they just looked at me like, you talk about this like you're talking about the weather. And I'm like, because it should be spoken about that way. Sex is natural. And women talking about sex should be okay, because we all own our own. We all want it. We all want it at different levels, at different times, in different ways. And we shouldn't have shame around that. And just because society has told us at some point in time that maybe we should, and we should be quiet about it, and good girls don't, look, just because I can talk this way about sex, just because I feel this way about sex, it doesn't make me any less of a mom, of a professional, of a good girl, of a whatever label you want to place on it.
Right. And we have this toxic good girl syndrome, and I myself am deconditioning this good girl thing I'm recently hearing about, because I want to be a bad girl, No, I'm kidding. But it's so let me ask this. So if the viewers out there, you guys are relating to this, like, oh man, I know that I am embarrassed about speaking about these things in public. I'm scared to talk to my friends. I have maybe one person I feel really safe. Where can this woman start to break free from this?
Therapy is always a good option, to be honest with you, because in therapy, you learn how to get comfortable with the vocabulary. You learn how to give yourself permission to be a sexual woman, right? I have women I work with in their 30s and 40s, like I said, where we're talking about how to masturbate for the first time and removing
Wow.
shame around masturbation, and exploring your own body, and, God forbid, teaching your partner how to please you in a way that actually pleases you and
Yeah.
not just him. Most men don't want to do it wrong. And if you give them some
No, they want to
direction,
please
they're
you.
happy to abide by it. They're happy to hear it. They're happy to listen to it. They're happy to have you participate fully with them. Because I hear that from a lot of couples. The man's like, well, she just lies there. I want her to be engaged. I want her to want it. And so many women don't know how to want it. They don't give themselves permission to want it. So therapy is a great place to start, to work through that shame, to work through that guilt, to work through those insecurities, those hang-ups, right? The other piece that we can't ignore here with women's sexuality is the insecurity that comes with our bodies, that comes with how we perceive ourselves as sexual beings, right? When he spends years and years telling you that this image, this figure is sexual, this figure is sexy, and you're not.
Yeah.
How do you give yourself permission to be sexy in your true form?
I relate to that. Like, it's getting me emotional. I can feel there's still that conditioning in me right now, because it's like, now I'm 36. I feel comfortable naked more than I ever have. I can now orgasm
Good for
through
you.
penetration. Thank you. And it was intentional. I just want to put that out there to you guys. I set an intention. I set an intention and then put that intention into action of getting curious and doing the research and maybe going to therapy and these different things, and realizing myself, because I could orgasm on my own through masturbation. I didn't even realize when I was a kid I was masturbating. I was masturbating compulsively, actually, everywhere. But I didn't even know that was masturbating. When I found out, I was so ashamed. I was like, oh, I'm sinning all the time. So it was just nuts. But now that I am working through those things, I feel beautiful naked. I'm starting to feel desirable to myself. But because of self-preservation, people out there, we do have the comparison thing.
100%.
There is a hierarchy of comparing each other towards the magazines, the women, the influencers, the different things, because you are not enough. You are not desirable unless you look like her.
Correct.
And therefore, you are not desirable to even be touched, to have sex, to not just lay there and enjoy it.
And again, that is a concept, that is a perception, that is a thought that lies within.
Yes.
It's not a truth. It's not a reality. And most men, I would say most, I'm going to use that word and I'm going to use it confidently, wouldn't project that on a woman that they love. They wouldn't project that on a partner. They would look at her and say, you're beautiful. And we are the ones that sit there going, please don't look at me. Don't touch me. Turn off the lights.
Wow. Really?
It very much is. Like, I work with so many couples, and I have for many years. And a lot of the time, it's when it comes to sexual conflict, it isn't that he doesn't want her. It's he wants her fully and she won't let him because of the insecurities. I've had a baby. I have a role. I have a this.
Stretch marks.
He's like, but I want to see her. I actually want to see my wife. I want to see my
because he's visual.
Partner. Yeah, he's visual, and she is suppressing her own sexual being because of these images that she has in her head. So a lot of our sexuality, a lot of our female sexuality is tied into our insecurities, and are tied into this idea of looking a certain way in order to be desired. That's not necessarily the truth. I'm not going to say in every relationship, but in most relationships, that's not necessarily the truth.
No, this is something I have done. I'm a nerd about this stuff. So I'll go ask every male I can find that I'm comfortable with. And I'll be like, what do you think about this? How much does it take to turn you on? And most of the feedback I'm getting is they're like, it's not very hard with us. She has smooth skin. She has a little bit of curves. You add in, I'm in love with her.
Yeah.
And like, geez, it's like, whoo. She has breast or she has whatever they're into. It doesn't even have to all be there. Even the things that they like in porn don't have to be there. It's like that she's there to get to touch her body. And it's enough for them. And be touched by her.
So many women
receptivity
are afraid to be active participants in the act. Right?
Oh, it's so fun. You guys should do it.
It's such a great such a way to, nothing on a rainy day.
You'll never be bored.
But I think it's, and then, when you are that woman who is engaged, when you are that woman that takes the lead, when you are that woman that your girlfriends call you a freak of nature, or society somehow tells you you're hypersexual, or what are you doing? You're too old for that, or you shouldn't, or
I hate that one.
Right? It's like, and I've been told, you're a mom. And I didn't become a mom by looking at them, right? Like something happened there.
Oh yeah, I think that's the thing. You're a mom. You can't be hypersexual. It's like, what did you? It's another form of. I don't like using giving your power away. Like we're expected to give away our freedom because we became parents. That's codependency. Forget that.
And
No way.
It's limitations that don't need to be present.
No,
and again,
not at all.
No one's going to turn to a man and be like, "You're a dad. You shouldn't be hypersexual." Like,
they would not say that to a dad.
They don't go together, but for some reason, for women, it does.
Yes.
Right. And
well, it's the purity thing. Like that's what's hitting me right now. I'm imagining because the own stereotype that I've been put on me. It's like imagine this girl in a white dress. And she's pure. She's cooking dinner for the family. She doesn't talk too much. She never fights, never argues, no drama. The kids are happy. She meets her husband's needs. I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, I'm screwed. That's not going to happen.
No, but you know what? And I don't even know how many people want that. Right?
I don't think so. That's not real.
It's not real. It's not sustainable. It's not true. Right? And I think when it comes to female sexuality, living in the real, living in the true, living in what actually exists can actually be that form of freedom, that form of exploration that we're talking about here. This idea of like, not every woman's going to look a certain way or feel a certain way. Not every woman's going to have the same appetite. Not every man's going to want the same thing. But honoring what's true to you without shame, without guilt, without remorse of it all. Right? The idea that women have a one-night stand and somehow they're dirty. And
Now,
so if I'm not in a committed relationship and I have a sexual appetite and I don't want to be in a relationship because, that is a choice women can actually make nowadays.
Go figure.
Go figure. Why can't I just have the choice and make the choice to have a sexual partner?
Yeah.
What am I?
Well, and that's the thing. Yeah. Well, and there's, I don't know if you've heard of Alison Armstrong. I love her a lot. I love a lot of her male and female research on the biology level and instinctual level. And I do know, as knowing myself, and she talks about this, that after a sexual encounter, the oxytocin release, there is some kind of bonding chemical that happens, which can keep you from qualifying. If this person's safe, you go to fantasy land because of bonding, this and that. But I think that the Zoomers don't seem to have an issue with this. They kind of already are just strong. I'm not saying that all of them, but I know my generation and older go to Disney. Like, oh, they're so amazing. The oxytocin, infatuation chemicals are released. And it's like, I think knowing thyself, knowing your body, and not taking that as a directive to not keep exploring. Like that was something I was just thinking about.
Well, and I think we downplay the positive impacts of those oxytocins as well, right? Like they can do more for anxiety, depression. They can do a ton for your mental health. And again, I'm going to say it again, as long as consent is present, as long as it's something you want to do, and you're doing it with somebody who wants the same thing, then why not enjoy that act? Why not, reap the benefits of it?
Thanks for joining the Life in Red today, where we embrace passion, confidence, and positive sexuality. Keep painting your journey in bold red strokes. Don't forget to subscribe, and follow us so that you never miss out on living your best red life. Ready for more? Stay passionate, stay red. See you next episode.